Okay. Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks again. I'm really sorry that I missed the meeting today. It's been a crazy week. We had some theft and some other stuff at work, and so it's been rough trying to find some staff and get some stuff done. So I'm going to go through a couple of things here today. I'm going to go through the JavaScript, just kind of a quick run through, just to review. Brianna did awesome from last week. I'm just going to kind of go over it quickly, and then we'll spend most of the time on JavaScript options. And I'll record this and send it over to you guys like we discussed. So. Just for help for you guys, if it works out okay. So I have this github.io. It's something I set up for one of my CIT261 classes, and so I've been using that to upload my assignments and stuff. And so I'm going to go through these two. And so each of the weeks, I'm just going to kind of go through and update these pages. I'm going to add it to it. So if any time you guys want to go and check and see what I'm working on, this is the address: adamhawkins99.github.io. So first, I'll start off with the JavaScript one. So these are all set for mobile. So everything runs through on the mobile site too. I did it because I guess this is a mobile app development class. So you can do it on either. I'm going to keep it big so it's easier for everybody to see anything. So just a quick run through on JavaScript. So it's a scripting program language that allows you to implement complex things on a web page. Every time a web page does something more than just sit there, display static information for you to look at, display time and content, updates, interactive maps, animated 2D, 3D graphics, scrolling, video jukeboxes, etc. So every time you need to do something on your web page other than just sit there and for people to look pretty, you can use JavaScript. So I'm going to go through a few of these examples here, and then I have my references down at the bottom. One of the quick examples that I use in my JavaScript coding is this one right here. And so it's just a quick JavaScript that changes the date every day. So it just looks at the current date and changes to it. Something so basic. I also use the JavaScript on a menu page for up here. So if you need to add a menu and it shrinks down to the correct size, then you just, the menu will actually shrink with it. So a couple of quick examples. So let's start off with loops. Loops are handy if you want to run the same code over again each time with a different value. Often the case is when you're working with arrays. So just a really simple, basic Java that I wrote in my NetBeans. It's just something. So this is so basic, but it's just literally just prints out welcome to CIT after running the integer. So for a loop, one of the things we did here, this is one that I found that I was going to use. So it's a loop where it'll go through the different variable, which is the cars, the BMW, Volvo, Saab, Ford, Fiat, and Audi. And so the length it'll tell you, which is the loop plus, and then it'll go ahead and outprint this, so JavaScript loop, BMW, Volvo, Saab, Ford, Fiat, Audi. So loops are really basic, but it's something to have. So moving on to conditional statements. There's if, else, else if, and then switch. Brianna did an awesome job going over these last week. I just kind of want to show you what I did, what I was going to upload. So if you use if you want to specify a block of code to be executed, if is a specified condition is true. Use else if you want to specify a block code to be executed if the same condition is false. Use else if to specify a new condition to test. The first condition is false, or use switch to select one of many blocks of code to be executed. So this is a basic one that I found. So basically what happens when you run this Java, it pops up and the prompt says, will you please enter your age? And so the if here, if the age is greater than 18, I always mix on that, but the age is greater than 18, you're an adult. If the age is less than 18, you are not an adult. So I ran it, put in my age of 38, and pops up and says you're an adult. So functions. Functions are one of the fundamental building blocks of Java. A function is a JavaScript procedure, a set of statements to perform a task or calculate a value. To use a function, you must define it somewhere in the scope of which you would call it. So function is probably the most common thing we're going to see in JavaScript. So the function here, you can see they called it something here. We're going to go over that when we go through parameters. But the function here is the map. The variable is to create a new array. He declares the value, so it goes through and it will return the result. The variable f is the function, and so you can see here that the variable numbers are 0, 1, 2, 5, and 10. Variable q is map with the f numbers, and the consoles of all q. So I use this same example for functions and for variables because here we have the variable as a result. We're trying to code for that result. So variables can be thought of as a named container. So you can place data in these containers and refer to the data simply by naming the container. Before you use a variable in JavaScript program, you must declare it. Variables is declared using the var keyword. So this variable is the result, and in this case, you're going to use this data down here, which is the numbers. Parameters. So function parameters are names that you use to define the function definition and real values passed to the function in function definition known as arguments. So again, I didn't put an example down here because you just had the name this function map, so that parameter would be the map. So arrays and associated arrays, JavaScript arrays are used to store multiple values in a single variable. So if you want to have, in this case, multiple things like 1, 2, and 3, you can use an array to do that instead of listing each one out separately. Associative arrays, or many programming languages support associative with named indexes. Arrays with named indexes are also called associative arrays or hashes. JavaScript does not support arrays with named indexes. If JavaScript arrays always use numbered indexes. And so in this one, it's just a simple variable array, an associative array, 1, 2, and 3 for variable I, and then it would print out 1, 2, and 3. So these are all my references. Again, that link is in the github.io. So those are all things that I went through. So basically what I'm doing with this web page is just creating a page of what I learned with JavaScript. I'll use this example, kind of like Brianna did last week. This is what I was working on this week. These are some of the examples I saw. All this is really basic. I hope it's enough of what they're looking for. I guess we'll know once we start doing this kind of stuff. So moving on to the next one, we're going to look at the objects. So this is where I spent most of my time this week. I was with the JavaScript objects. So, and again, these two are very much interlinked because you don't really have JavaScript without objects because it's really what you do. So. But in JavaScript, objects are king. If you understand objects, you understand JavaScript. So in JavaScript, almost everything is an object. So booleans, numbers, strings, dates, maths, so any kind of math problems you do, regular expressions, arrays are always objects, functions are always objects, objects are always objects, and all JavaScript values, except primitives are objects. I think it's interesting to note that these booleans, numbers, and strings can be objects if they're defined with the new keywords. You have to define them. So. And I apologize, I formatted all these for mobile, so if you can see on the mobile, that works great, but if some of the pictures might be a little blurred out. So the first thing you do when you do an object is you have to use the object.create. And so it's a method that creates a new object using an existing object as a prototype of the newly created object. So in this case, we did the constant, which is the person is human. It printed introduction was a function, and then it goes through and it talks about these different things. So when you run this particular line of code, it says, my name is Matthew, am I human? Yes or no? It's a true one. So inheritance is probably my favorite thing in Java, because one of the problems you run into when you're building multiple lines of code and different stuff is you don't want to have to redefine that class every single time. So inheritance in Java is a mechanism in which one object acquires all the properties and behaviors of the parent object. And so there's a couple of types of inheritance. There's basic, there's multiple inheritance. There's a couple of different things, and I have an example down here before you. But this is a single inheritance. So class B inherits everything from class A. A multi-level one is class C, inheritance everything from A, B, and C. There's hierarchical, and so class B and C will both inherit from A, but not from each other. You have multiple, where class C inherits both from A and B, and then a hybrid, where class D can get from each one of these. So the example that I put up here of inheritance is, so this class we created is an animal. There's another class we created as a dog, and then there's a third class we created as a baby dog. So if you notice, the class for animal is defined as eating, the class for dog is defined as barking, and baby dog is defined as weeping. But when you test the inheritance to do that kind of thing, the baby dog inherits all these things. So instead of the baby dog just weeping, the baby dog actually gets weeping, barking, and eating, inherits all of those traits. So it's a really cool one. So properties are values associated with a JavaScript object. A JavaScript object is a collection of unsorted properties. And so again, we kind of went over those in the last one, but just a really basic example of what we went through over here. So this is one that I found on W3. It's a cool thing to go through, but just all it does is talks about the particular property of the person, which is the variable, and then the text. So it writes out John Doe and his age, and each of those are defined as the different properties. So, and then JavaScript object methods. Methods are actions that can be formed in an object. A JavaScript method is a property containing a function or definition. So, so in this example that we also found on the W3, really good stuff over there. This represents the person object. So because the object person owns the full method. And so this is what we're talking about with methods. So the variable person of John Doe is also, it represents that person because of the fact that the object owns it. And so even though the object, so we see here in the function that prints out the full John Doe, it inherits all that stuff, and it's a part of that. So this one I struggle with a little bit, and so I hope we can get some help from you guys next week as we kind of go back over this again. But an instantiation pattern is a JavaScript is a way to always create an object using functions. There are 5 different patterns: functional, functional shared, prototypical, pseudo, classical, and ES6. And so I put a couple of the examples down here. I think what I was struggling with the most as I was going through this was you have the instance here where it creates the storage, right? And so my variable is some instance, and I went through and did this, and I got it to work in the NetBeans, but I don't fully understand how you use this in an actual, sense. And this is what I want to kind of get some help with you guys. But the instance that I can see here, it just creates all these different instances, and I guess I don't fully understand how it goes. And I apologize, this one's a little flared out, but again, I formatted it for mobile and that kind of stuff. So basically what it comes down to with Java is it's just an awesome tool to learn. I wanted to take you through, let me pull it up over here, but I wanted to take you through some of the ones I did in the previous class, some real life examples of what Java can do. And hopefully that'll help us have a really good understanding. So give me just a second here when we pull it up. So this is my GitHub, and I had the opportunity to go through that one. I had opportunities we talked about in that other class to go through. Oh, that's what I got to do. Sorry, I'm not thinking here. To go through and kind of do some of these other. So it was the web back-end development, I think they called the class, and it was a really cool one to take, and it's kind of real similar to the format of this one. But some of the things that I did for Java really helped me out. And so, like, for example, the Java list is, I ran this particular code in Java to where it can create this list of, in this case, this was a list that it created an array list, which we talked about arrays. And it creates this list of all the different subjects I needed to teach myself in that web backend development class. And so it creates out the list and it would format it. So what it would do is it would print out this, it would give me all the coding topics and it would list all of them that I had to learn. And so using Java in a web application to print out lists like this is a really cool thing to do. Instead of having to try and list out each one of them, it'll actually do it for the person. A couple of the other ones that I went through and did was the Java map. You can see down here, again, these are what all of them do, but it would go through, and again, I use this same kind of format, but instead of using a list, I use a map, so it more like diagrams it out. But it goes through and it listed out each of those I needed to do, but assigns them a different value. So in this case, I assigned a different value to different weeks, and it worked it out for me. So we had 10 weeks, just like we do in this class, so we had to do these different things, and the Java went through and organized those based on the 10 weeks. A couple other things that we would work on. The queue was a nice one to do. So in this case, I took all the classes that I had taken, the classes that I still needed to take to finish my degree when I went through and did this one, and it puts them all in the queue. So the other ones that had previously been taken, the 230 and 360 that were done, it removed them from the queue and then put the other ones that were still waiting. So if you want to do a queue, different things on your web page, you can do that one. And then the set and tree was just a really basic one. It just took in a really basic, but it took your Java set, kind of went through and did these different ones. So it had this array of all these different ones and stored at the list. So in this case, when you have a user who wants to give you a large sum of information, something you need to go through on your web page, you can take all the information and give you, and it'll sort it using the Java set. So yeah, I know that was probably shorter. It would be cool if you guys could be here at this time, but it's so hard getting our schedules to match up. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. I will for sure be there next week, and again, I apologize I wasn't there today. Just unforeseen meeting that came up that the bosses said I had to be at. And so Java is awesome. It's just really something we're going to use a lot of, but having the chance to go through and work on these different things, to be able to learn how you can do more with your web pages using the Java is really cool. And really, one of the most basic functions that I saw with any of these things is just the ability to collect information from an end user, store that information in an object or an array in some kind of database. We're going to go through some different stuff as we go through the remainder of this class, but just take the information that you need, store it, and then to be able to sort that information, do different things with it. And again, like the dates are the most basic, but when I was going through and trying to figure out how in the world do you set the date on a different thing, it's Java that's going to help you do that. So yeah, hope this was helpful to you guys. I will go ahead and upload this and then post the link to our shared Google Doc. And then if you have any questions or anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out. And then I'll work on being there with you guys next week, and we'll get all this going again. So thanks so much.